In my own process of healing from a toxic relationship, I was constantly my own worst enemy, getting on my own case about why I wasn't moving on, why I wasn't over things yet. This just wasn't happening fast enough, and how could I even miss such an awful person to begin with? In this video, I want to talk about missing the narcissist and why so many people do this, and how we can go through all of this in hopefully a much more comfortable way. I'm going to talk about what I personally discovered on my journey of healing and what did actually make me stop missing the narcissist. I'll be very transparent when I tell you that the first thing that happened to me was I realized how incredibly wrong and unhealthy I was doing every single part of this entire damn process. And I have no issues in saying that. Everything that I teach, that I try to show other people, I did probably the opposite of that. I stumbled across the healing process and the grieving process in my studies of narcissism, and then, of course, in my research of trying to get over all of it. And I had heard of it before, but I didn't really get what it all entailed. And this isn't the video where I want to take a deep dive into the grieving process. If you want a video like that, let me know, but this isn't where I want to do that. But after finding out where I was in those stages of healing, then I started to work on the trauma bond and how you break it. And the 10 steps that I learned to start breaking some of those things were extremely helpful. So helpful, in fact, that years later, I still refer to those 10 steps when making videos and talking in the comments and working with clients. A lot of stuff I try to share and teach is literally what got me going in the right direction. Grieving, trauma bonds, that's all fine and good. Definitely really important things that we need to be aware of, and they do help, like I say, get us moving in a more positive and more productive way. But I want to share what actually really struck me. I read an article online about healing from a toxic relationship, and I wish I knew who wrote it because I would share it with everybody, but that was so long ago. But my takeaway from the article was we need to grieve, really grieve the loss and all the losses. And the discovery I had there was there's actually more than one thing. There was more than one thing I was having a hard time getting over than just missing this person. I didn't just miss him. I missed the good times. I missed what I thought I had that I very clearly did not. I missed the relationship, and it hit me that we're all dealing with more than one loss as we go through this. And I think that's why it's even harder. And I'm positive that for other survivors, they had and have even more to miss than I did in my situation. And one day when I was journaling about grieving and loss and all this stuff, something just kind of hit me. So I am actually going to share with you verbatim, and I'm going to read you what I wrote. You have to grieve what you lost. You lost someone who at one time meant the world to you. Maybe they still do. You can't just call them a loser and think you're going to move on. You don't go to a funeral and call someone a loser. You reflect and talk about how great they were, how missed they will be. That's how you get through this. It is a loss. It is a death. The death of who we thought they were. Grieve for who isn't here anymore, accept who is, and then move forward. And that's the trick right there. It was for me. When I read about grieving this as a loss, it hit me death. And I know that sounds morbid as shit, and it is. I'm not going to lie, but I swear it worked. I took the narcissist, the idea I had of this person, and I pulled them apart into two people who I met in the beginning of the relationship at that love bombing stage, and who I really just fell madly in love with. And then there was the rest, who I got at the end, the liar, the cheater, manipulator, abuser. But once pulled into two people, I could handle the situation so much better. It was much more easier for me to deal with. I remember so many times being absolutely inconsolable and thinking, why? Why am I still crying over this loser? I would get so pissed at myself, so angry to where I was scolding myself for having feelings and being emotional. But through this process, I learned I wasn't crying over the loser. Nobody is crying over their abuser, the cheater, the manipulator, all that stuff. That's not who we're crying over. I was crying over what was gone now, who I missed, the good times, the positive side. And once it became two people, I could grieve. You know what made things easier for me among all these other things? When I stopped trying to convince myself I hated this person, because I didn't and I never did. Was I angry? Absolutely. But hate, that's a strong word. And I just never did. When I told myself I love this person who was in the beginning of the relationship and not this person who was at the end, I loved one, not the other, I felt better. We don't grieve the bad. Like I say, who misses the bad? Nobody in the history of ever misses the bad. Nobody. I allowed myself to appreciate the good times, realized how few there actually were, but appreciate nonetheless. All the bad, all the negative, all the awfulness, I took that and dealt with it completely differently. That's where you break the trauma bond. That's where you boost your self-esteem. That's where you do entirely other things to help grieve and get over the bad side of everything. I gave myself time to miss and grieve, and then I said, Jess, they're dead now. Gone. Never coming back. And that's death. You know, they're there, they're in your life, and then they're gone. And that's it. I mentally put him in the ground and said a few words and kept on moving on. It was honestly one of the smartest and best things I ever did. And I know that I've told this story before and I always get feedback like, well, that's stupid. I'm not going to grieve over somebody who doesn't exist. The love bombing, it's all fake and it's all bullshit and they don't mean it. So I'm not going to grieve that. That doesn't make sense, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. I don't subscribe to that idea. I truly believe narcissists are trying to put their best foot forward in love bombing. I believe they're obsessed with us and smitten and know nothing about us at all and don't look before they leap, and we seem perfect. But once they find out we're just mere mortals, the devaluing begins, among other reasons why the devaluing begins. But nonetheless, narcissists have feelings, unless they're a complete sociopath, but most of them aren't. Most of them have feelings. They have ideas of love. They want it, but they're terrified of it all at the same time. And I've said it for years. These people are human riddles, conundrums. They want something, then they don't. They want it, but they're scared. They fear commitment and rejection. I mean, how is this even? This is some kind of an enigma that sometimes is still a little daunting for me to understand. But I think their ideas of love and happiness are there. They're just extremely selfish and skewed, but it doesn't mean it's not there. I think they try to give it all they have, but unfortunately, they can't keep it together. Narcissism is just so deeply rooted into their brain, a horrible habit, a life-altering disorder, and something that it just always ruin everything for them, unfortunately. And regardless of what your opinion is on whether or not you think the love bombing is real or fake, honestly, whatever you think is totally fine. Obviously, of course, your opinion is fine. I don't care. But whatever way you go on it, let me say this. It felt real to me. And therefore, in my reality, it was. And that's why I chose to grieve it. And that's why I chose to have my moment and then move forward. And it really helped me. When I was 5 and Santa brought me presents, that was also very real to me. So I think we all have to develop our own coping mechanisms over time. And for me, this is just what works. I can and usually do talk shit on narcissists all day, and I'll do it again. I still will. But I do always keep in the back of my mind that I'm positive nobody wants to live this way. I'm positive that what they're dealing with really sucks. And just like we have our reality and we have what's real to us and what isn't, they also have theirs. And our reality is much different from theirs, and yours is probably different than mine. And again, that's also fine. But the whole point of this video was I really just wanted to share what helped me, because I'm truly hopeful that it will help somebody else. And I really think that it will, regardless of what your opinion is. If you think about them as two different people, I think that might get some people going in a more positive direction. Learning all of this and that really cliche time heals all wounds thing and finding passions and purpose in life, that's how you stop missing someone toxic like a narcissist. It's how I was able to resolve a lot of issues and struggles, not just from, people that I dated, which is the main, focus of my channel, but this also helped me resolve issues from my narcissistic father who destroyed me mentally for over 15 years. Before I ramble any further, thank you so much for listening. If this helps you, please let me know down in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't. Have a great day, survivor, and take care of yourself.